Welcome, all you Bass University people, to Bass University Live. I hope you're having some of your anglers coffee like I am this morning. Super psyched to have you guys with us today. Rich, man, you have been on the road for a week and a half, and you're finally back home. It's been Bass University all the time, man. It must feel good to be sleeping in your own bed for a change.
Yeah, it's definitely good to be home. It was be 2 weeks today. I left Tuesday, the Tuesday before the Athens show. I kind of came home to a frozen tundra. I mean, it's not gonna break 20 for the next 2 or 3 days. But it's definitely good to be home. Pete, the big flat is covered in ice all the way to the mouth of the Susquehanna River. As far as my 42 by 10 binoculars can see across that flat is a solid sheet of ice.
Wow.
Haven't seen it. Have not seen that since 2022. We had a real hard ice leading up to Christmas. We haven't seen that kind of ice impact in a couple of years on the bay. But she's locked up. So it's good giving the fish a break from everybody's jerk baits in the Northeast.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It has been a couple of years, and it's going to continue to build because we've got Arctic vortex or whatever they're calling it sitting on us right now. So the ice is going to keep piling on. But the good news is it doesn't last long down on the bay.
But it's stacked up right now for sure. It's locked. So
that's interesting. Well, we'll dive into that a little bit. Jocelyn, are you with us this morning? I think you were.
She is.
Hi, Josh. Good morning.
Good morning.
Man, we had a bunch of Bass University events. We were in Texas and Anderson, and it was pretty awesome. Jocelyn, real quick, your highlights, best Bass University moments from the last 2 weekends.
Oh, all the people that attended.
Yeah, good one.
I will say though, I did learn something at this last one about baby oil, but I won't spill it.
Oh,
but I learned it.
I heard that. That was the thrift. That was thrift dropping that little gem on how to monitor your crankbait. That's cool. I forgot about that, Rich. I know we were talking about it when we were putting the seminars together, but that's a sneaky one. But I say, Josh, it was awesome in Texas. I can't tell you how many times people came up to me and thanked us for putting Bass University on, and how much they appreciated the class and you know all the seminars that we bring and how it's helped their fishing. I remember one individual was telling me he's been fishing for 3 years, and until Bass University he didn't catch a fish, and now he's fished consistently. So
no, Bass University, I didn't catch a fish either.
That's right. Now you're an old hand at it. Well, hopefully, we were talking with the guys that we're going to be talking about big bass today, guys. Which it's going to be a great show. If you're into catching the biggest fish in the lake, if you want to have a chance to catch double-digit fish, this is the show for you. So it's going to be a great one. We've got Brett Cannon and Dalton Smith, who are both working on OH Ivy. They're both guiding and teaching out there, and both great anglers and catching double-digit fish. Just to give you a little teaser, when we were talking to them before we went live here, we're talking about seeing schools of 10-pounders. Rich, I can't imagine what a school of 10-pounders looks like.
I can't either. I would imagine it looks like a school of carp swimming through the river. I mean, it's wild to say, and that's something that I'm really excited to dive into about with these guys is exactly how they've become so proficient at IDing, at identifying fish, and being able to recognize that this is a great big one and this is definitely a bass, and some of the characteristics that they're putting to work as far as that identification process, because that's a big thing for a lot of anglers, and we hear it all the time in our seminars. Guys talking about forward-facing sonar is that they can see everything, but they don't know what they're seeing, right? And that's that in and of itself, and understanding what your graphs are conveying to you, that carries a lot of weight just all on its own. So
yeah, excellent. Can't wait to talk to these guys. It's going to be a great show. We have, if you didn't make any of our events so far this year, they're all going to be televised and released on Bass University TV. So it's a great opportunity to get subscribed and check it out. Jocelyn, what are our programs we've got going on right now?
Like our promos? Oh, it's for $119 a year. You get a Missile Baits promo.
Missile Baits.
Yeah.
Love it. So yeah, get subscribed for an annual. You can check it out for free. You can take a free trial. We always offer that for you guys. But all the stuff we filmed, the Brian Thrift sneaky crankbait modification, the Humminbird 360 and Mega Live 2 tutorial that he did in class, which was off the charts. You guys are going to want to see that if you're a Humminbird person or you're interested in forward-facing sonar. That's going to be something you're going to want to see. We had Gerald Swindle, Lee Livesey, Greg Hackney, and that's just to name a few of great instructors and great tutorials that are all going to be available over there. So get yourself signed up and come over here and enjoy things at Bass University. Going to help you catch more and bigger bass. Man, let's talk about catching bigger bass. I'm excited to bring our guests on. Let's go ahead and bring them on and dive in here, Rich. I mean, we've got two guys that are spending. I'm jealous. I got to be honest, man. You're spending all your time targeting double-digit bass. It's pretty awesome experience. But we've got Dalton Smith and Brett Cannon, both guys fishing on the Bassmaster Opens now, working on OH Ivy. I want to check in with them both, see what they're what's going on with them and what their future is. But how you doing, guys? Man, I appreciate you taking. I don't know how you do it, but I appreciate you taking a break from catching giant bass to be with us.
You're welcome, man. I'm glad to be on this. This is awesome. I'm really excited to be part of Bass U today, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, Pete, Rich, really appreciate it. Really appreciate the opportunity, and can't wait to share some of my knowledge about how we catch these trophy fish out here on Ivy. So
that's cool. I teased it a little bit, and I can't imagine what the heck is a school of 10-pounders look like. Like, are they suspended under bait fish? Are you're scoping them? Are you visually seeing them? Like, what is that like?
Yeah, no. I mean, at times of year it's different, right? Like sometimes they're on the bottom, sometimes you pan over on a flat and the whole screen is just solid fish from top to bottom. Depending on the year, sometimes they're in trees. Right now they're just glued to the bottom. So we really don't know how big they are until we pull them off the bottom, because that bottom contrast, and that's one of the things that we look for. But yeah, just a minute ago, I got a client right now waiting for me to go back, but yeah, they were on the bottom just snaking around down there, and they were huge. You pull one off the bottom, you're like, oh, that looks like a 4 or 5 pounder, and then you pull them off the bottom, you're like, wow, this thing's getting so big, and they're long, and it's just, man, we had probably 3 double digits come up off the bottom right now, but they're just real lethargic, slow. You could just tell when they're not going to bite. They're just not in a feeding moment right now.
God, that's crazy. That's crazy to have that experience, and I hope to have it. Rich and I were just talking about making the trip out there, maybe in March, and the what is it about this lake, man? Like OH Ivy is just putting out, like we were just at the sharelunker headquarters, and half the sharelunkers are coming from OH Ivy. Why is that lake?
yeah, so the Texas Parks and Wildlife obviously has stocked this lake, and there's been different fluctuations of water level and stuff too. So you hear about the new lake syndrome. I can't really recall the year it was. Obviously, I've only been down here for 2 or 3 years, but when that lake filled up, all that nutrients that was on the bank, all that fresh stuff that got in the water, it just kind of set the lake off, and they had those genetics and just tons of room to spawn. I mean, there's acres and acres and acres of salt cedars out here right now that we can't even get a cast. You can't even get a boat into. So those fish are protected, and just can spawn and thrive, honestly. And the bait fish, I mean, the amount of threadfin and gizzards that's in OHIV is absolutely insane. I mean, it's so fertile.
It's all about the nutrients,
Yep.
we've seen that over and over again, and those threadfin or the bait fish are definitely the key, and the nutrients feed the bait fish. But the genetics are great, right? They come from the sharelunker program. I gotta ask you. I watched the MLF tournament down there. All right, this is your opportunity to tell us what those guys were doing wrong.
No, it was a couple of guys figured it out, man. You could only really, those 2-pound floaters were like the deal. And then the water came up and some of those guys were in the frogs, but they were in a funk, man. It was fishing tough.
Yeah.
It was definitely fishing really, really tough. We had a couple trees and some things that like local knowledge that we knew how to get a couple big ones to bite, but it was definitely fishing tough when they hit this lake. We weren't really catching them either.
Yeah. Well, what was it like? It was in the fall, like a typical late summer, fall kind of thing.
Yeah. Lake was in full turnover mode and it was hot. And like Brett said, I mean, I feel like I could take a jerk bait or a small swim bait, and we could have caught 52-pounders that were just, floating pretty high up in the water column. And you saw a couple of guys starting to figure that out. But I mean, I would have just been out there scoping around, casting and everything up high, and you just got to trick them in that format. They could have done really well with that, but it was just a really bad time of the year. There's a lot of West Texas lakes that go in that funk for a couple months, it seems like.
It seems like it's every lake, right? Not
Right.
just, but every lake goes through that fall period where you're like, where'd they go? Well, we were so excited to watch them fish Ivy, and we're tuning in and watching all the small fish come in. But it's all about timing. Heck, when they come to our neck of the woods, to the Chesapeake, they always come at the wrong time of year, and we struggle. The lake struggles to show out, but the opens are coming there this year. Here at a good time of year, so it'll be interesting to see the weights come in, which leads me to let me start with you, Dalton. I know you've been fishing the opens,
Yes, sir.
and you're now out at Ivy. Are you going to continue fishing the opens? Are you going to continue to try to make the elites? Are you going to be a full-time trophy hunter? What with you?
Yeah, so whenever I moved down here or moved my business down here from Kentucky, I just spent that whole year, growing my business and everything, and had a lot of help doing that as well. Obviously, Brett. And so I lived down here at Elm Creek RV and Campgrounds, the best place on Ivy. It's an awesome setup, and I guide full time. But as well, last year I hopped into the opens, traveled with Brett and Caden, and this year I'm only fishing. We got the two divisions. I'm fishing one division, so I'll fish the first four, and then hopefully, obviously, qualified for the EQs at the end. But yeah, I'm just I'm really blessed to stay booked up, and if I'm on the road, I'm fishing the opens, and as soon as I come back, like I have like one travel day and then I'm back to chasing giants again. So it's a super busy schedule. It works out and I love it. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Man, that's a dream of probably everybody listening to this show, is just
Right.
fishing all day throughout the year. So that's fantastic. You found a great way to get that worked out. And I know, Brett, when we roomed together, what was it, 2 years ago, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And man, you were having a hell of a year.
Yeah.
That
So
year,
close.
close, unbelievably close to making the elites. And I saw you fish last year. Are you going to continue to give that a go?
So this year I'm taking a break from the opens. For me, I started a new company that I'm going to go full bore on with that, try to build that brand. It's hard to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, building anything, right? So the goal is to slow down on guiding, go all in with Thor Lithium, the battery company that we've been working on for 2 years. And, my background is batteries, with my family owning a small interstate batteries distributorship. So we're going full bore on the lithium deal. We're going to be at trade shows and events and things like that, and grow that brand, and then hopefully jump back in the opens next year. Maybe one division, but really going full force lithium, and then guiding probably about 10 days, 5 to 10 days a month.
Man, that's awesome. Thor batteries. Did you just start that brand? Did you guys?
Yes, sir. We we've run the last 2 years in the opens. I've run these batteries and just tested them, putting them through the ringers. Have all the guides in Texas running them. Just wanted to get that out there, make sure they're legit. And we got the heating elements, we got the Bluetooth, all the works, the best BMS systems. So Yeah, we're excited to jump in and get in that battery world.
You got to have it, right? I mean,
Yep.
with forward facing, I mean, the brushless trolling motors are helping. They're drawing a little bit less power, it seems, but with so much power needed, and lack of you needed to have lack of interference with your units. There's so much that's key, and everybody's going to the lithiums. I got to ask you, what's your setup? Like, I mean, I've got guys using. I've heard of like 16-volt battery systems for their sonar units, or 15. I don't remember. What's your setup? You're the man on this.
Yeah. So
setting your
yeah,
boat
to
up?
me, I've never my batteries are always over 13 volts to the front grass, so I never lose power throughout the whole day. So I've never been able to really tell the difference between the 13 volts and 16 volt front. But to me, I run two 36s in parallel, 63 amp hours, and two 12-volt 150s just for redundancy, just in case, we're on the roads and the opens and our livelihood depends on our batteries. We can't be stranded. And I just like having the two 36s in parallel, because if I have anything was to happen to one of the 12 volts on my 36-volt system trolling motor, I'd be dead in the water, right? So for me, all I have to do is maybe switch over on a battery switch, so I just always have a backup battery no matter when. So that's why I choose the two 36s and two 12-volt 150s.
Okay, that's what. Let me ask you about starting batteries. Like some of the, we were looking into some of the motors weren't recommending lithiums for starter batteries. What's the status of that?
So I had talked to Yamaha directly at one of the opens, and the problem with like some of these cheap knockoff brands that are like the ecom brands, we call them, or cheap Amazon brands and things like that, their BMS systems aren't up to par, I guess you should say. So there's not a industry standard for the BMSs. So until there is, they kind of just don't recommend them. But I think Mercury just came out with their own lithium battery. So yeah, I mean, I run them all on mine. Dalton runs lithiums for his cranking. I think the Suzuki has a stator and not an alternator. So I think the Suzuki's, you got to stay away from running a lithium for your cranking. But I've not had one issue.
I got you. Well, I mean, it's necessary for the fishing the way we do it these days, especially like it competing with, I know the brushless motors make it easier, but if you're chasing them down with forward facing sonar, I mean, you're on that motor like all day long.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, I did. So this year I did really well on St. Clair in the Open, and I had my trolling motor on 9 the entire day from start to finish, just covering as much water as I could. That was the key for me, and I could not do that without lithium.
yeah, boy, that's a nice lake, huh?
Yeah, that was awesome. Man, that was my first time there. I was able to like top 10 it, and it was, man, it was something else, man. And some bonehead moves. I'm not super familiar with smallmouth, and just not retying when I should cost me a couple 5-pounders, but you live and you learn. But yeah, no, that was a really fun event.
Man, that's an amazing lake. It's probably the big, best smallmouth factory on the planet. What were you fishing close? Were you making long runs? Did you do any of that serious stuff?
I had one spot that was in Canada that I was a starting spot, and it was like 3 little tiny rocks that they would get on. And the first day I pulled up there and caught like 18, 19 pounds in 10 minutes. And then I was kind of by that channel that ran through there, and I was just covering. I had a couple little zones that on practice I'd caught a 4 or 5 pounder, and I just marked it. And I would just cover those zones, and like every 30 minutes I would just pan over and see one. If they were up over that grass, I could catch them, but I couldn't see them. So I was just trying to find the ones that were just like suspended like 3 to 4 feet off that grass. And it was just, man, it was epic. It was epic.
Man, that place is amazing, and it's epic, but you're not going to see a 10-pounder.
No.
Of course, we did see a 9-pounder on the St. Lawrence River this year. So 9-pound smallmouth. They did break the New York largemouth 12-pounder up there, which all happened this year. But Dalton, 12-pounders are a little bit more common down in your neck of the woods,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess it's been 2 weeks ago. I mean, I think Brett's caught three double digits in the new year or something. Like my boat has two, and then like 2 days before the new year, I had a guy catch a 12-19, I think it was. But it's obviously it's sharelunker season, so 13's the number in our head. I know it's crazy to say for people, but like a 10 to 12 pound fish, obviously we get super excited about and we target those, but like we're just that 13 is it's what's in the back of our head.
Well, you had a couple big days. One day you caught 2 14s in the same day.
Right. Yes, sir. Yeah, that was before I actually moved down here. That's why I moved down here. But it was really, I like to tell that story just because it's a little bit different. I caught them both on 8 pound tests on a 2.7 Divine swim bait by 6 cents, and one of them got me hung up in a tree. It was crazy. But I just approached the lake like I was grinding on Del Hollow Lake, deep Clearwater Lake, where they get out in the abyss and kind of roam around. And that's how I found a zone one day, just out over some deep water, and caught one, went and waded in at Elm Creek and came back, and it was just an area that those 10 to 14 pound fish were roaming in. I caught another one, and I don't know if anybody's done that, honestly. Like Brett was like, I don't think that, anybody's ever caught 2 14s. And I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on. Everything was kind of black in that moment, to be honest with you. But
Man, that's an amazing, it's a lifetime day, right?
yeah.
Catching fish to that magnitude. Did those wind up going into the sharelunker program?
No, so those were caught. I think it was 2 days before the new year. So I did not submit those. I just weighed them in, and we took some documentation, took some videos and stuff, and that was basically it. So I think right after, or that February after that, I ended up catching my personal best was a 1476. Those other two in the same day were a 1469 and a 1427. So I got to submit that one to the sharelunker program, and I literally, the coolest thing about the program is you can release the fish like right where I probably netted the fish and put it in my boat. I watched her swim away, and I think she was well over 15 pounds when I let her go, because obviously they sit there and eat trout and whatever else good protein they feed them there at the fishery. So
Yeah, we were just out there. They had fish there that they don't know how big they are because they don't weigh them. When they put them in the tank, they were like 16 pounds or whatever, and they're probably swimming around at 18 to 20 pounds right now. And
there was one that I saw that was probably a 20 pluser when I was there. It was crazy.
It's insane.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine looking down and seeing a fish of that magnitude, and that's got to be what it's like. Seeing a 14 pounder. It's just something that I think Brett's dealing with some getting some calls in. So I'm sure he'll get back on when he can. But man, that's amazing to catch fish like that. Now, was that all? Take us through some of the techniques. Like, what are the actual tools that you're using to catch these giants?
Right. So obviously forward-facing sonar is a big player in how we catch these fish. There is a time period though out here when these fish get up and we have all those salt sears I was talking about, that you can just go chunk a big swim bait, like a whale, a 6-inch whale or something, that kind of style of a bait. But forward-facing sonar and really these deep dinner plates. I mean, these big fish like to live deep most of the time of the year, right? So, I mean, right now I believe they're living in 55 foot, but we're catching them in 25 to 35 when they're sliding up to feed. And obviously it's so weird, Ivy. You can look at the barometric pressure and all this stuff, but we have to try to put people on the biggest bass possible every day. So I don't want that in the back of my head. I'm like, okay, today's not going to be a good day. Like, I just try to find those little bite windows, and they might be 30 minutes. But I know where these fish, I've gotten to fish out here dang near every day for 2+ years now, and I know where they pull up to feed. And there's a couple of different things. Obviously, when they get keyed in on gizzards or threadfin, you're going to use different baits. But it's like you either have to make them react out here with a big plug, like a big crankbait, or you have to go finesse, whether that be a small swim bait, or I like to reel a flock hair jig over their head, and they just get up behind it and they hunt it and they just eat. And sometimes you don't even feel the bite. Like those 2 14s I caught in one day, I never felt them eat it. I had a 10+ caliber fish come up behind my bait, and I saw the separation. There was no separation, and I felt thunk, and I set the hook, and I looked at my buddy Cole and was like, she just spit it out. Like that's what I felt her do. Because you have all that line in the water, right? That fish is 30 foot deep. There's a lot of resistance right there. And the next one that did it came up and I saw the separation go away and I just set the hook and my drag just starts taking off. So there's a lot of little things that when you get to watch these big fish every day that you pick up on and maybe somebody else wouldn't. But I mean, there's a lot of things that go into a lot of tools, like you said, on how to trick the biggest bass in the country. So.
When you're using those finesse baits, I mean, are you missing fish? Like you've got slack, you've got a lot of line out. It's got to be heartbreaking when if that fish like that is on and then gone that quick.
So what happens is I don't have a rod, right? I mean, I don't have a rod in my hand most of the time. Me and Brett, we're trying to put somebody on a fish,
Yeah.
and I'm sure Brett has lost a lot too. When you set the hook 0.25 seconds too late, sometimes your opportunity's done.
Oh,
Yeah. I lost one that I think I would have to say was 16 to 17 last year. Me personally. Yeah.
How'd that go down?
So, like we were talking about those schools, so we had found a school of fish. There was about 10 that we think were in that 10 to like 11 pound range, and then there was 2 that were always just behind that school, and they were significantly bigger than those 10 pounders. Well, that same school earlier in the year, and I think it was November or December, Dalton, where your client caught the 1665.
In November.
Is that November? Yeah. So that same school was there from November to February. In February, my client had those 10s were following his bait, and they'll do that. They'll just follow it all over the boat. Well, they were following it, and I had a rod, and I had one guy, and I just threw a little Demiki right on the back 2 fish, and she ate, and I hooked her for a couple minutes, and she done come off. But it was that same group, and I know if she was 1665 in November, those 2 fish were, I would say, 16 to 17. That's why it's just crazy when you see them. They don't even look real on the scope. Like you're like, that's not a bass, and then they eat, and you're like, oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. That is not. It's got to get quiet in the boat when something bad like that goes down.
Oh yeah, I've had grown men cry. I've had them, guys kind of just mess up a shot at a 14 to 15 pounder and come out of the water, and then not letting drag. Because in the April and stuff, we'll drag big worms real slow. And I had a client hook one that was 14, 15, and it broke 25-pound big game like at the boat, and he just didn't hit the drag, brought a grown man down to his knee and pulled him in the whole water. It's just like I've had a lot of missed opportunities. I don't know if it's me not coaching them well enough, but or just bad luck, but we've lost a lot of sharelunkers.
Well, I imagine you're not getting, like, you're not in a numbers game, so it's got to be so rough when you're working so hard for maybe 1 or 2 bites and things go haywire, man. That's the agony of defeat right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Because our best marketing obviously is when our clients catch a big one. Like we don't like holding pictures of our fish. It's always when our clients catch them, then our phone starts ringing even more, right? So it's like you see a guy that a 13 or 14 in your heart, and you're like, oh my gosh, how much money could I have made from that fish if you'd have just got it in the boat?
Oh man, I can appreciate it because I do that. I work on the Chesapeake and I take people out, and it's heartbreaking when you lose a 4 or 5 pounder, and geez, a fish of that magnitude is fantastic to in positive and negative. But don't you had a line class record that broke world record that made news. Everybody was talking about it.
Yeah, Leanne Powell. So she caught a double digit with me. It was a 10 something the evening before, and we went back to that same school. And this was a little bit shallower. It was in the I can't remember when she caught that fish, maybe March or April, but they were in like 15 foot, and it was just one of those little dinner plates that we're talking about. They were cruising the bottom, mud all over their bellies, and she was throwing 10 pound. There's a 10-pound test line class world record. It was a 12:02, I believe. She caught it on a Deminky, and golly, I mean, when that fish, the dimensions of that fish, I'm sure you've seen a lot of pictures of them. They're just kind of short, stocky. I mean, so when they go on the net, you don't know if they're 13 or 1280, 12 and a half, 12, So we got pretty excited about that one for sure.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the agony of defeat, it's got to be absolutely amazing when a fish like that comes in the boat. I mean, they got
Yeah.
grown men calling their moms, you know. What goes
I've personally, my adrenaline spiked so high on these big ones, like those 214s in one day. I was like dry heaving over the side of the boat, and I totally in. Like she caught two double digits back to back days. I told her, I was like, "You're on this adrenaline high right now, and it's gonna crash." And she got, I mean, she got sick. Like it's not fun that crash. It's crazy.
wow.
I'll take it though. I'll take it
Yeah, yeah,
anytime.
yeah.
It's
The
awesome. Well,
bass shakes.
is that a like the the standards to submit for the line class and the world record kind of stuff? Is that a were you prepared for that, or did you just
No.
kind of figure out, oh man, this is a big fish, we might want to submit it?
Yeah, so when it was over 12 pounds, like when they get close to that 13, like your scale could be off. Like I literally just threw it on there and it said 12 something. I was like, hey, it's sharelunker season. We're gonna get documentation of this fish. Like obviously it's special to our clients or whatever when this happens. So we wanted to do everything we could. And I think she started researching afterwards. I was catching them on light line that year a lot, like big ones, and there was like eight of them trying to eat it out of that fish's mouth the whole time. I kept telling her like, Leanne, look at the screen, because they were just trying to eat out of her mouth the whole time, and she was just locked in, like paying attention to her drag and stuff. But we know we weren't prepared for that. Now there are people that try to beat these line class world. I had a guy come from California to try to beat the like fly fishing, like a 20-pound tippet, like, and we fished for 3 days straight trying to do that. And obviously we didn't succeed, but that was the goal, the task at hand. So
Yeah, that's a lot of people. They spend their whole lives and careers chasing those world records that way. I guess if
yeah.
you're, you could do it here. But you guys keep mentioning this dinner plate. Like, is that what a bass looks like? A 10-pounder looks like on your sonar, or what's it? Where's that term coming from?
You got
It's
it,
just,
Brett.
yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just a flat near some deep water, pretty much, and we call them dinner plates. Anything that doesn't have a ton of drop to it or something, just a flat, pretty much near deep water. And that's what we target out here. And I've used that to kind of help me in some of the opens too. Trying to target big ones like on Wheeler. Kind of doing the same thing. We were on that kind of crankbait bite on dinner plates here. Went to Wheeler. I was like, let me check it on Wheeler when you're in, or I'm sorry, Eufaula, Alabama. Same
Mhm.
thing. We're on it. So it's like, all right. So now we just kind of, it's our term is like just a dinner plate where they get up on to feed.
That's interesting. So they're just flats that have some bait fish schools, and that's where the big ones like to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can
Oh, yeah.
scrape mud off of their belly. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And what we're kind of realizing too is like, there's been times where I've had clients on one fish, or like some fish will show themselves. They'll get up off the dinner plate and kind of swim around or whatever. And we've had times where I'll tell my client, throw at that fish, and we'll turn that fish, and that fish will be coming. And it's, she's only 5 feet off the bottom. Well, all of a sudden, you don't even see these fish, and here comes 4 or 5 more off the bottom coming up. And you never even saw them. So when they're just sitting on the bottom, they're really, really hard to see. So now for us, what we're trying to do is really target, like, even if they look like ants on the bottom or real small fish, we're still throwing at them because, those fish can turn into being really big.
That's why do you suppose? I mean, it's food, right? It's the easiest way for them to feed is why they got to be there, right?
Mhm.
Is that what you're learning? Like, are the bait fish just easier to catch out in that open water for these big fish?
Yeah, I think that obviously these dinner plates that we're referring to, like Brett said, they're close to deep water. There's always some kind of big structure around, right? We have a lot of big timber in this lake, but I think
Mhm.
these fish like that open area to where they can chase the bait fish and hunt. These fish out here like use their vision, their sight feeders a lot, and just having that big open expanse where they can just cruise the bottom and a gizzard school comes over their head and boom, here they come up. I mean, I watch it all the time. They'll just shoot off the bottom and just go absolutely crazy on a school of gizzards. You're like, how do fish swim that fast? And I just think that they, just like us, right? We all have our places that we like to go eat and hang out and stuff. I think it's the same thing as these bass, and it changes through water levels and different times of the year out here, obviously. But that's like me and Brett work together, and we just find these places and it's like, hey, let's try to keep these sneaky and like just hit them. These trophy fish, like you can't just sit there on them all day, right? You have to don't let them get smart. We try to be, you know,
Yeah.
try to have a strategy behind it.
Yeah, you probably got to leave them alone, come back, that sort of thing. But as you guys are talking about this big fish, like I don't see, like in my mind, when a fish gets 12 pounds plus or 10, he's lethargic. He's an ambush feeder. He's not a chaser. So it's kind of, you guys are learning that that's not really the case with these big fish. They get after it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some fish though. There's some of them that we'll find a big sharelunker and it'll be in a tree and that's its home. I feel like that's that ambush feeder, that big giant one that's by itself that's got its home range. But a lot of these fish are like they like to be on the bottom and they're sight feeders, these big giant ones. I think there's two different styles of fish in this lake.
Okay, so there's chasers and there's ones that live in the habitat. What else have you learned? I mean, after spending all this time looking at them through the seasons, is there anything else interesting that like dispelled some myths? Like we thought fish did this, but you know what? The big ones really don't do that. Anything come to mind? Like maybe during the season or how deep they spawn or,
The spawning, yeah, they spawn a lot deeper, I think, across the whole country than we think. I think that's what forward-facing sonar has taught us. I've seen fish spawn out here in 15 to 18 foot, but obviously you can't see those with your eyes.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I've learned out here in 4 years of guiding out here that the big ones just they're deep. To me, yeah, I think a lot of like my clients are always telling me, hey, can we go shallow? Can we go shallow? Like, cause we're not getting those bites. And I'm like, man, there's like there might be one bass in this whole lake right now that's shallow, this Florida strand or something. But yeah, I learned, these deep ones, man, it's weird. Like the other day, I was on one of our flats. I didn't see him, but I panned over off the ledge, and it was just like an army of ants was coming off the ledge. That I couldn't see it. My graph was set at 40 feet deep, I was in like 25, and they just coming off the bottom, off that ledge, just coming up like ants. So I think there's no limit to how deep these big ones will go.
Wow. How deep have they gone? How deep have you guys actually caught them?
I don't like to catch them any deeper than like 35 because I feel like you end up killing them, getting them up. So I think you could target them out here in 55 foot if you really tried. But we don't, if they end up dying, it's so hard. There's so much stress on them and they're so big and it's hard to get them to go back down. And I don't like fizzing these big fish. So.
Yeah, that's deep. Rich, what do you think, man? This big fish hunting is, it sounds like a lot of fun to me. Oh, we got no audio on you, Rich.
What I wonder is, are there things you guys are doing that is off the beaten path as far as, being able to trigger these big bites? Like, and what I'm getting at with that is like a few years ago, I know, there was a thing going on with just a straight swim jig, no trailer on braid. And like, that was, relatively speaking, it was like, that's interesting. Like you wouldn't typically think of that. Is there anything like that, that is specific to these larger than average size fish when you get up around that 10 pound range? It's like, you could get them to go on these kind of baits where, other size or other techniques just flat out won't work.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like I think I hinted on it earlier. It's like you either have to make them react. Like obviously these bottom feeders, it sets up perfect to throw a crankbait on, right? And like the biggest fish in the lake, like I'd much rather try to get it to eat something out of a reaction bite than like it following my bait for 50 feet and going, oh yeah, coming up and down. Cause like that's what these fish do. And what people mess up on a lot, and you're saying like how we're, these little tricks is if you let that bait drop, I don't care if it's a quarter inch, whatever, If it drops and they're looking at it, they will swim away from it, and it's over with. So the reason that swim jig, and you're talking about that presentation, like I just throw a hair jig. We have the flock hair jig. There's a lot of great hair jigs on the market, but it's super natural, and I put a juggle minnow on the back of it, or a Aussie or whatever, right? So it's sitting right behind the hair, and it's just sticking out from the skirt or whatever, just a little bit, and it's just back there kind of swaying back and forth because a lot of our presentations are just real slow and just steady. And like I said, I tell everybody if it drops at all, we're done. It's done. It's the
Yeah.
opportunity's over with. So they just like to get behind it and hunt it. And all they come up to do, they just come up literally right behind it, open their mouth and inhale the bait. It's really subtle. So there's like two ways that we kind of target them, right? You presentations where we're trying to get these fish to trick them, whether it's supernatural presentations or we're making them react. So.
Mhm.
So it's over. Like when they come up and they start swimming away, like there's no follow-up bait, or it's like it's one and done. Then
You might as well pull your troll motor up and not come back to them for a couple hours, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And it's
There-
so hard if you want to do so, you have 10 giant bass following a bait and you want to jerk it or do something, and but every time that you do it there occasionally, if the bait's right, if it's like if they are on a paddle tail, or which sometimes they will be, we'll just crank it harder. That bait can't drop, but it can kind of get away from it and keep it at that level. It just can't drop. Sometimes that'll get them to kind of to fire. Sometimes at that school, we see that school will bomb a paddle tail way past them and let it sink and almost just like reel it as fast as you can up in front of them, like up high, and get it kind of to them, and then they'll come after it, and kind of like a reaction type deal. But yeah, that subtle, slow presentation with no movement dropping, and it's so hard to do because every one of my clients wants to do it. They see it, like we've had 30 fish follow, and they're like, I'll see them. They'll like try to reel it, or they'll drop it right because the fish is right there, and every single time that fish just turns and just swims away.
Oh, man. Well, it's funny you said, because a lot of guys are talking about using speed as a trigger for getting these fish to commit. Like you want it to come up, you want them to chase it like a cat chasing a mouse. And
Right.
but yeah, I guess it's so hard, right? You got to make that. I can't imagine being there, seeing a blob like that, having to make a decision. Do I just suspend it? Do I try to reel it up? Oh my! And then you make the wrong call, and you're like, no.
Yeah, exactly. Like we always try to work everything up, whether it's sinking jerk baits or glides down there too, and we always want that thing to kind of work up. And it's weird. Anything that goes that besides a jerk, besides the crankbait, everything they just feed up. It's just what they do.
Yeah. Well, what about like there's so many heads out there. There's different weighting systems that I've seen guys use, from nose weights and hooking in the middle of the baits. I saw Milliken was talking about that at our seminar, and I've seen some different jig head designs where the line ties down, behind the head. Do you guys have any? What's your strategy to get that bait to hover?
So unfortunately, we have to deal with the wind a lot, like more days than not out here. It's so flat. So obviously the lightest stuff that I can get somebody to present a bait with, 5/16 would probably be my favorite weight to present to them, because it kind of floats, like you're saying, it kind of floats there, but 3/8 is usually 3/8 half ounce, somewhere around in there is usually what we have to go to, just because of the wind. And you have to get to get a client to present a bait to a fish that's swimming, whether she's on the bottom or she's floating, and 25 to 35 foot is very hard, especially in the wind and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that I've experimented with out here, working with Six Sense. We got a bunch of new heads coming out, tungsten heads, roller heads, stuff like that. And it just seems to be like bite window stuff. I mean, we I find like five things that I know these fish out here, like the biggest bass in the lake, will eat, whether it be a hair jig, a crankbait, a small swim bait, a jerk bait, a drawl, something like that. And I have those five, and I try to put it in front of them as many times, in front of their face as many times as I can throughout the day. And like you said, you pull up to a school of fish and you don't want to mess them up. So we know that they eat, or the past week they've been eating, just hunting the bait real slow and not, speeding up a retrieve. So like that's how we have to approach it. And like we might get to try some things every now and again, but I just keep it simple a lot of times and just go with, what we're confident in and what we know the biggest bass in the lake it will
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah, and casting accuracy is the number one most important thing here, because you can't throw it on their heads and you can't drop it right on them. So for us too, we have to figure out what our client's level is when we get them in the boat. So hey, like throwing a big glide bait on a fish might not be the deal, So like these smaller profile baits that can get down quick and give our clients the best chance. It might not be the best bait for us, like that we would throw, but our clients if they can't make that cast or something. So we're kind of handcuffed sometimes on what baits we can and can't throw throughout the day.
Yeah, I get that. Because you gotta, man, that's a spinning rod is probably the most efficient weapon to get that bait in the casting cone when you need it, especially for a person that doesn't fish as much as you guys do.
Yeah, we have some clients that say, "I'm not throwing a spinning rod." You're like, dude, that's vital. You have to. This is what we need to throw right now. Nope, not going to do it. I'm like, all right.
Well, what's the deal of all the double-digit bass? How many are coming on spinning rods? How many are coming on bait casting gear?
Out
Majority
here,
of mine are on bait casters.
All of them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Majority. I mean, I've caught a few. My clients have caught a few. But like I said, I want to get these when they hook these big fish. And if you let them play, there's timber around and stuff like that, So you really don't want to be playing these fish. You want to get them up to the surface, get them in the boat as fast as you can,
Yeah. Are you using a lot of braid with leaders or
Just straight fluoro?
Straight fluoro.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Man, it's a scary proposition, but we're going to get out there and give it a go with you guys. The question I wanted to ask is, I'm talking to you guys. I'm like, I got to make my trip. I got to get out there and check it out. I know a lot of people are doing that. People from all over the world are doing that right now. Is the lake getting crowded out there?
No, not. There was one boat at the boat ramp this morning. It's a little, it's right now. It's still a little tough. They haven't started firing really. You can trick one a day. Like last week, we had a 9 or a 10 pounder every day, but it was just one fish. But that's what we're targeting is one. But we had 50 giants follow our bait, but we got one to bite. So until these guys are smart now, they start realizing like February is probably the best month to start coming out here to chase these pre-spawners. So I think February it's gonna get rowdy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that sounds awesome. And we're gonna let you go, Brett, because I know you got a client. Is he sitting out in the freezing cold? Did you let him get in the truck?
No, I got him over at Elm Creek RV and Campgrounds. He's in the he's biting at he's wanting to go because we saw some big ones and the wind's kind of dying down right now. I think if we can get the sun to come out, maybe some fish, and right now it was cold, man, really, really cold. But yeah, he's fired up and he saw a couple big ones. He's wanting to learn kind of how to tell the difference between giants, like you said, utilizing forward facing sonar, learn the lake a little bit and see if we can get him on a sharelunker. A sherry is what we call them.
A sherry. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
If guys want to come out and fish with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, just check me out online. Instagram is just Brett_Cannon. I got my website's ohivfishing.com. That was a pretty big move on my part. I get all the Google searches, but yeah, just check Dalton and I out. I'm gonna slow down on the guiding and really push this battery deal and just really promote the brands that I work with and kind of focus on Bubba and Bass Mafia and some of the other brands and grow this battery brand.
If they want to get one of your Thor batteries, how do they do that?
It's just thorlithium.com.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep, like I said, I'm trying to get to going to do all the shows, ICAST, Bassmaster, the Classic, maybe not this year, but next year, and all, you'll see the boat and truck wrap all around the country. We got a couple exciting guys on the team this year on the elites, and the team's grown. I feel like we got all the best guides in the state, and we got them on board, and we're gonna rock with it.
Hey man, well, congratulations on that, and wish you best of luck and good fishing. Good luck this afternoon, man. We want pictures.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna tag bass you here in about 3 hours with one over 10.
I love it, man. Well, it's great catching up, man, and good luck this year. I'll catch up with you soon.
Yes, sir. Have a good one. Thank you, guys.
All right,
Bye.
That's Dalton. Now you're out there full time. Let me ask you this: we're talking a lot about forward-facing sonar. What are you? What are you using? What are your settings? Or are you making any adjustments out there to help, with these big fish and tracking your bait? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I run Lowrance. I've been a Lowrance guy ever going up through college. We were on, with the Lowrance program there. I fished for Campbellsville University, a small Christian college in Central Kentucky. I've just been that's what I've always been comfortable with. The open water. It seems like obviously, you know, all these forward-facing sonar companies now, right? Garmin, Lowrance, they're all up to par. But I really, really believe that for these suspended fish that are swimming, that the Lowrance with the smaller cone is key. I don't touch my settings at all throughout the day. The only thing that I'm messing with is my angle offset, and this depending on how shallow I'm fishing. Like obviously, sometimes in the pre-spawn when you're up in less than 10 foot of water and those fish are floating up high, whether they're heating their eggs up or whatever, I'll tilt that down a little bit so I can see my bait splash a little bit better. And but a lot of times, like this time of year, if it's windy, your client learning and seeing that bait sink. So I will tilt it down, my angle a little bit just so that they can see that bait hit and start tracking it, so they don't mess up and drop that bait like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, those are some good tips and key stuff. You got to be able to see your bait. Are you getting our clients? Are they when the guys that come out with you, are they familiar with this kind of fishing, or are a lot of them brand new to it and you got to teach them from jump?
Yeah, a lot of times, even if the people say that they're like, "Hey, I'll be scoping all the time," like I run my forward-facing sonar, I'll break it down just like with somebody that's brand new to it or somebody that says they're veteran at it, because there's probably some things that I'm gonna explain differently, right? I literally go from, okay, here's the transducer on the screen, this is where it is, this is your distance. I break everything down. A guide trip with me is an electronics trip in itself as well. That's what I tell everybody. And I break it down from the very, very beginning. If you were just to first see it, that's how, when somebody gets in my boat, that's how I approach it.
Well, that's
Because
great.
we have people that come from all over the country, right? A lot of my clients are from out of state, and when they hop in the boat, uh, some people are good, some people you can tell, you're right, it's pretty quick, but there's a lot of people that aren't good at forward facing sonar, but since they aren't good, they don't have those tendencies that they do on their own. So me being able to teach these people and how I see how we're gonna our bite our chances of getting a bite increase. It seems like those people they learn really well and they actually listen, and you can teach them, and it's an opportunity even if they're not running forward facing sonar all the time.
Well, that's great. So people that are not, that experienced can come out and learn and
Yeah.
and have fun doing it. But when you're on OHIV, like you're like, what's a typical day out there? Like you're looking for big fish, right? That's the point of people coming to this lake. So
Right.
having the back of their mind, all right, we're probably just going to get a few bites today. Is that what a typical day's like?
Man, this lake fishes. So I've gotten to see all the seasons, obviously, for 2 years now, and how these fish move and stuff. And from March until about June, you can go catch 5 pounders. You can go catch 6, 7, 8 pounders, right? But it just depends on what the client wants. If they show up and they say, "Hey, my PB is a 6 pounder, and I'm just trying to catch a couple big ones," like we have these spots. I fish from the dam all the way up to both, the Concho and the Colorado River. Like I spent a lot of time up the river. We've caught a lot of 12 to 13 pound fish up the river and stuff. So it just depends on the client. Like I had last week, I had a guy that has caught a ton of big fish. Uh, I don't even know how many 13 pounders he's caught, but that's all he wanted. So for 2 days straight, I found 6 fish over 13 pounds on my forward facing sonar, and they all dang near about bit the first cast. But I followed them. Like we were talking about earlier, you kind of have that one cast opportunity, but I looked at him, I was like, that's the one we want. That's the one I want to net. So I would follow him until I lost him on the bottom. And every 15 minutes, I'd have him stand up and make a cast at her and just to see if she would go.
Wow.
But
How long? How
uh,
long can you stay with one fish like that?
so Brett hinted on it earlier. We released these 10-pound fish and watched them swim back down, and they'll just disappear. Obviously, right below your transducer, I think you can see the bottom pretty well. But as your transducer bounces off the bottom as it goes out, there's probably, I don't know the science behind it, but there has to be a foot and a half that I don't think we can see very well. Even if that fish is sitting on the bottom and it's a 12-pound fish, so that fish is really tall. I just don't think you can see them. And I followed one the other day. She was up high, suspended, just kind of cruising in like 25 foot, and she would get on the bottom, and I had to do everything in my power to not lose her. Like I would just see a little glitter, and then you just kind of know the direction that they're going, and they'll just kind of raise back up. But I'll lose a 13 pounder pretty quick. I mean, they can disappear. There's a lot of deep dark places out here. You got your Rain River ledge, you got big giant pecan trees, and when you lose them, obviously it just feels like you just got stabbed in the chest because you know how big that fish was. But it's really easy to do.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Well, that's it's an interesting place. Are you working at any other lakes? Are there any other hot lakes in the area, or is
yeah,
Ivy?
OHIV obviously, in my opinion, is the teener capital of the country still to this point. But there are some small lakes out here that if Ivy might be a little stingy that we'll go to. I don't want to give all those names up of the small lakes because there's some that probably never see a boat for the whole week. But obviously JB Thomas, I'm sure y'all have seen some of the pictures of the dirty, dirty, dirty water. I mean, it's like an inch visibility. That lake is absolutely insane with the amount of 10 pounders that those guys are catching out there. And I go out, I think Brett and I were going out there maybe once a week for the past couple months, but now we're just solely on Ivy because of the chances of catching a 13 pounder are a lot greater out here.
I got, and that's an interesting lake too because those fish are suspended in that dirty water, right? They're doing that
They're out.
same, but they can't see it.
Yeah.
That freaks everybody out, right? We didn't think that would happen.
Yeah, that lake is very interesting. I've learned a lot just fishing that lake the handful of times that I have, but there's so much crappie and gizzards and thread. The bait in that lake is insane. And I think those fish, obviously, they just swim out there until they hit a crappie or crappie bumps them on the nose or whatever, and they eat them. And that's how you have to target them when you fish. I've made 50 casts to a fish out there that I knew was 10 pounds and never hit it. And then you finally hit her right between the eyes, and then boom, she bites. It's kind of a frustrating lake to guide on because you can make so many bad casts and you have to be so accurate out there.
Well, that's crazy. That's so funny to think about. He just swims around till he bumps into something, and
Yep.
then wolfs it. Well, that's you're going to do the opens again. I guess you're going to do the Western, or I guess I call it this, or I guess it would be Central division.
Right. Yep. Starting on Sam Rayburn, February 13th is our first tournament. So
there you go. Do
yeah.
you now? Now that you're in Texas, are you spending a little bit of time down there?
Yeah, I mean, I've fished Rayburn a couple of times. The big bat, like they have a bunch of tournaments out there, and I've fished them with my clients and stuff. It's hard for me, Pete, to get some time off to go exploring a lot, just because when I say I'm booked every day, I mean, if there's an opportunity for me to be guiding, that's what I'm doing right now for sure. Obviously, the schedule for the opens this year lines up perfect for me. We're going to Kentucky Lake, which grew up on fishing. North Fork, I've spent a lot of time with bull shows in that area and stuff. And then we went to Leech last year as well. And that lake is, gosh, I honestly just can't wait for that tournament again. So,
Yeah, that's a smallmouth lake, right?
oh yeah, a bunch of big smallmouth in that lake, and that lake, in my opinion, might be starting like here in the next 4 years. Could be better than Mille Lacs just because of the amount of bait, like the crawfish population, and just how fertile that lake felt like when we fished it. I think we were all like mind blown about the how big the smallmouth were in there.
Yeah, Yeah, well, that's a great schedule. I was hoping we'd see you guys on the East because I think Rich and I are going to jump in that open if they let us in.
Heck yeah.
Up on the Chesapeake, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never got to go fish any of that water. I've obviously been to New York and down the East Coast and stuff, but I never got to fish any of the tidal stuff like that. So
I got you. Well, you have a little bit in Texas, but they all complain about it because they're small fish.
right, right.
How was your college experience? My son's about to join the college program. You spent the beginning part of your fishing doing that. Did you enjoy that experience?
Oh yeah, yes sir, for sure. So I fished for Campbellsville University for 4 years, and that's a fishing school. And I know there's a lot of great programs across the country, but might be a little whatever. I can't think of the term, but that program over there, man, we had 9 team trucks that were wrapped. We had team boats that we would take just in case something happened, and
Awesome.
that area where we were, Central Kentucky, I mean, within 2 to 3 hours, there's a ton of great fishing. You got Dale Hollow, Green River Lakes, probably like one of the best in the country or in the state, and then Kentucky Lake's a 3 hour drive. But also, whenever I graduated, I started coaching Campbellsville University kayak bass fishing team. So I had no, history or prior knowledge about kayak fishing, but obviously being the president of the team for 2 years, I knew how things worked, and I got to recruit kids to come fish on a scholarship out of a kayak and really enjoy that. And they still have that program, thriving over there as well.
Man, that's fantastic. It's so great that they even have these programs for the kids these days. But
Yeah,
Camp University, we'll have to check that one out. We'll see if
yeah, for
Jake
sure.
fish at one of these schools. He's only 15 now, but he's he's definitely wanting to fish his way through college. But it's been a great program, man. You did great with it, and man, you're off to having a really cool career that I think a lot of people are envious of. And now you're chasing 10-pounders. That's a great
Yeah.
time.
I love trophy bass fishing for sure. It's something that's in my blood now, and I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. And I'm just blessed that I get to do it every day. But obviously, qualify for the Elite Series is my goal, so I can, maybe guide, certain times of the year when it's fishing good, and I have to be out here because I'm on that grind right now. Like I said earlier, like guiding every day I can. So
That's got to be. It's interesting because the mentality first of fishing the tournaments and trying to qualify for the elites
yeah,
is a complete different mindset
yeah.
than trophy hunting.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
it's really hard. A lot of people ask me about that. I told you I took a whole year off from tournament fishing. I've fished tournaments, right out of college. I was fishing BFLs and stuff, and I just took a year off from fishing all tournaments just to grow my guide business. And honestly, it hurt me. Last year in the opens, I had a fun year, great year, cashed a couple of checks, but didn't obviously qualify. So it's a mindset thing that you have to turn on and off, and it stinks. But I think I got it figured out now, and I'm just excited to get back out there and compete. It's when I leave a tournament, I just want to go to the next tournament, honestly. So I'm excited about the Open this year.
have you run into that trap? I know of targeting trophies, targeting big fish during tournaments, and has that because that can be a trap sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You wind up catching just two, and
Yep.
they're big ones, but it's not enough.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you land one of those bites, that could be the difference between sitting in the top 10 or sitting, like you said, just getting a decent limit. Yeah, it's completely different. And it's just that it's just that tournament mindset. It's go, 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 go. Out here sometimes we might be a little patient about things, right? Like a like just trying to make sure everything's right because that 10-pounder, how smart that one fish is, and we're just targeting that one. And in a tournament mindset, I try not to do that and waste a bunch of time just for one bite or whatever. But it's completely different, and we all got our own game, right? We all approach tournaments differently and stuff, but once you find your lane and you can start riding that wave, that's the goal, that
Well,
momentum.
well, it's awesome. We'll be rooting for you.
Thank you.
Come down and fish with you, or how do they do that? You go through the same place with Brett, or how's that work?
Yeah, so I have my own website, dsmithfishing.com, and then all my social media is dsmithfishing on Facebook, Dalton Smith, and obviously TikTok and stuff too. We're always posting big fish slow motion videos, just trying to get that content out for our sponsorships. I work with 6 Sense and stuff, and I'm filming with them all the time on baits that we're working on and showcasing why they're the best bait company in the country. So catching these giants out here on OHIV.
Man, well, that's great, and I'm excited. You're going to get your boat wrapped back, and are you going to be back out on the water this week, or what?
Yeah. So I'll pick my boat back up tomorrow from getting rewrapped. I'm still running the same blazer as last year, and then had a couple of sponsor changes, and then Thursday, Friday. I mean, we were talking about that warm up earlier. It seems like you have these big cold fronts, and you always hear this cold weather, the bigger the bass, stuff like that. It seems like it kind of shuts them down when the front's going through. But that next 1 to 3 days, that warm up, that's when we had those crazy. I mean, I had a kid catch a 10 and a 9, and Brett had a 10, and we were doing some filming with Thor, and he caught another 10. So it's like that warm up. I just think that their bite windows open up a little bit more.
All right, so we got to watch the weather.
Yeah, for sure.
The day after the front.
Yep.
Even in the bluebird conditions, because that's often a bluebird, right? But that's still when the big ones come.
Yeah, the biggest client fish. So that 1665 is, I think, the third biggest one on Ivy, but 14th biggest in Texas. And it was flat calm, no wind at all in bluebird skies, and she bit at like 12:30. So
Wow.
I have caught them in the cloudy, kind of misty rain. Like I've caught them in those good conditions and stuff. But I don't think we get really specific about some weather patterns and stuff. And obviously there are patterns to barometric pressures and the moon and stuff. But I just go out and try to see that bite window through the day. It seems like it's just day by day when you're chasing giants.
Yeah, it's interesting because over the years the biggest fish have, even in the tournaments, have often come right in the middle of the day.
Yeah. And I don't know why that is. Obviously out here on Ivy, we all kind of take off the lake for lunch. Like we'll fish our 4 hours and then we eat lunch for 30 minutes or an hour, however long it takes. We go up and eat with our clients. And I don't know if it's because all the boats aren't running around then, because I think that plays on these big fish and their bite windows. It seems like the weekends they just don't bite out here, and your big ones get caught during the week when there might not be as many boats on the lake.
Yeah, they're wily little suckers, but
yeah.
Well, I hope we get a chance to come out and take a stab at them. We're going to try to make it for March, because we're going to be back in Texas at the Classic, and that would be a great time for us to try to make a trip, Rich. We're going to have to figure this out, man.
Agreed.
It would.
I know we probably plan on, driving the Bass U trailer out there to the Classic, but maybe we can just fit all the gear under your boat cover, Rich, and we could just travel all the Bass U gear out that way this year. What do you think?
Possibility.
Yeah, y'all need to come down if you can, for sure, especially during that time frame. I think I'd love to meet y'all in person, obviously, too, and I'm sure I could throw you a couple bones and put you on some big ones as well.
We're in, man. We're gonna figure it out. We're getting out there. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and hanging out with us. It was a lot of fun, and man,
happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Getting old.
And hope you catch a 10-pound. Well, you're not fishing today, but need to catch another double-digit fish soon to celebrate.
Oh, yeah.
And
yes, sir.
We'll be rooting for you out on the Opens trail. We'll be keeping up, and we'll be in touch, man. Hope we'll be fishing next to you in just a couple months.
Yeah, Pete, Rich, thank you all for having me on. Bass University is a pleasure. I'm glad I got to come on here and talk a little bit about chasing some big ones, and appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you. You have a great day, and we'll catch up soon. Guys,
thank you.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back. We're going to give away some prizes and do some stuff, and talk a little bit about our Bass University events that just went down. So we'll be right back after this.
Welcome to Minnow King. How can I help you?
Everything looks good. I'm friggin' starving, man. Been spawning all morning.
Ugh, TMI, bro. What do you want?
I'll take a Crush City freeloader and gizzard shad.
Anything to drink?
Water.
Pull ahead, please. Welcome to Minnow King.
We're going to have what he's had.
Yeah, throw me in a Ned BLT too.
Pull ahead, please.
Calm down. Quit feeding so much.
Hey, man, I'm trying to, man.
If you overfeed him, he's going to hide under a log.
Right here, Aquaview, mandatory equipment in my boat. I say it all the time. The smallmouths hide in the cracks in the rocks, and just saw a little bit of the same kind of rock with the cracks in it. And I realized that I had to put a bait down there. You wouldn't, idle over them and see them on your screen. You had to put a bait down there and suck them out of the rock. So, Aquaview, big assist on this one.
And outdoors Bassmaster Classic champion, Jeff.
Coffee. The angler's ritual. A reason to leave your cozy covers, even if you aren't headed to the river. We started Angler's Coffee because, well, we love to fish, we love coffee, and we care. Think of it as the rise before the rise.
Why do you love casting fishing rods?
I'm truly losing less fish.
Is the sensitivity of the rod.
That they're made right here in North Carolina in the USA.
Strongest, lightest rod, 100% made here in Sanford, North Carolina.
From the drop shot rod to the flipping stick. Every rod has a purpose to it, and I rely on them all the time when I'm out there in a tournament.
Durability in the John Cruz Worming series, the counterbalancing in the handle.
It's the only rod I found that can withstand my hook set. Boom goes the dynamite.
On the water, not spent fishing, is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together. The One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to Bass University Live. Man, I got the itch to get out there, Rich. We got to work this schedule out, brother.
For sure. Yeah, it's we've been talking about it for long enough, and weather has got us so many times in Texas, but we got to make that happen. And man, what a great couple of guys to have on the show to talk about that. With Brett and Dalton both. They were excellent.
They sure were. March will be a lot better time for us too, because the weather will be warm, and maybe Jocelyn will even come out in the boats with us this year.
Maybe if it's not freezing, I'll do it.
Heck, you did it
here.
You did it when it was freezing, so
I know that was cold.
Yeah, I'm proud of you for that. But we got to give something away to one of our subscribers, and Justin is not here to do it. Shout out to Justin. JH is under the weather after traveling this weekend. So do you guys have a plan for giving away a prize to one of our subscribers?
We do. 1 second. Continue talking.
Okay. That's what we do. Every show, we like to celebrate people that are part of the Bass University program. We appreciate all you guys, and we give something really cool away. But we got Lincoln G hanging out with us. Jose is asking, and this is a cool question, is like, any idea for bank fishing in 30-degree water? And that is a great question, because it's a challenging situation, because, man, it's frozen. Like, a lot of the banks are frozen, even around us. But my answer for that would be to try to find steeper, deeper, rocky areas with low flow that aren't frozen, or drill a hole. You might be able to, you might have to do that. But a lot of happy birthdays wishes, so that was really cool. and Evelyn, Trenton, and a lot of people hanging out with us on the board. Great to have you guys with us and being part of the program. So who gets our prize, Jocelyn?
Andrew from Kentucky. He's a new subscriber, and he already won a tournament off of Bash University.
Man, way to go. We got so much of that comments so many of those comments came our way over the weekend, and it's really great to hear that. Appreciate you guys reaching out to us and let us know what you would like to see and hear at Bash University, because Rich, you put together a really stellar lineup of super talented anglers this year, and thank you for that. That was great. That was a great job. And of all of those, because it's impossible to pick, so many had some really great things. But is there anything that stands out, like a tip or a trick or maybe a thought process or something that you heard from these seminars that stands out to you?
Well, there's a lot, right? Like there's, it's impossible to not take key information away from every single seminar. But first, thanks for the kudos on that. And I'd like to start by saying, and I don't know if any of these guys are watching right now. I doubt they are, but thanks to all of our instructors and to everybody that attended the classes, everybody that's new to sign up, that's going to get to see all this stuff. One of at this point in in my role with the company, one of the greatest things that I can hang my hat on and feel good about is when we work with instructors, and a lot of the instructors are repeat instructors that we've worked with in the past, and you get to see some guys really grow into the role of being a teacher and being able to relate to an audience and get their message across. And me, as an outsider from a professional fishing standpoint, just someone that works in the industry, there is nothing that makes me feel better than seeing the guys that I would now consider not only colleagues, because we work with them, but also consider them as friends, seeing them excel in the role of being an educator and conveying the Bash University knowledge that we've spent so much time and so many years cultivating, that, the shield, I call it, of Bash U, and seeing our angler instructors really just flourish in those roles. That's probably the most awesome thing that I get out of our seminars as a whole now at this point. But as far as the fishing side of things goes, I mean, man, it's so hard to put it just onto one thing. But I'm going to tell you something that was really impactful to me out of one of the seminars just this past weekend in Anderson. Gerald Swindle gave a power finesse fishing seminar, and the lead-off bait that he was breaking down in the power finesse seminar was a power shot. Okay, it's a drop shot rig on casting gear. You can use heavier line. You can be more efficient. The nightmare of a power shot, for anybody that's watching and anybody that's ever thrown it, is the line twist, because when that clipped on or tied on drop shot weight spins around as you're reeling your bait in, your fluorocarbon turns into it turns into a crinkled up, twisted up mess, essentially. And he gave a little tip on how to get rid of that, and the tip was to put a swivel at the bottom of your drop and use a standard bullet flipping weight as your weight, because it eliminates the line twist, because it allows the weight to spin rather than your line to spin when you're bringing your bait in. And that was one of the things that was really impactful to me, because, self-admittedly, the power shot is something that I do not utilize enough. I don't put that bait in my hand enough when fishing around docks or fishing around grass or just fishing around pressured fish as a whole. And part of that is because it's so frustrating, because it just gets so twisted up. So that tip that Gerald gave about that rig was really, really impactful to me on that, because it's like, wow, that makes it a whole lot more enticing to want to pick that rig up if I'm not going to have to retie every 20 minutes because of line twist. So that was one of them. I think from gosh, there's just so many, but from Texas, seeing, again, I'm going to just keep bragging on these guys, but, seeing our instructors like Maddie and Lee and Nick LeBrun and Hackney, of course, and Combs, of course, and Dakota Ebert, seeing all those guys just thrive in the role of, commanding the room and conveying their message and really teaching effectively. I think as a whole, that would be, my biggest takeaway.
That's great stuff. And Nick LeBrun was one that, stuck out to me too, because his personality really came through this year. And he's a lot of fun and, just some tremendous knowledge. Maddie Wong, I can't tell you how many students came up to me and expressed something that they learned from Maddie, his swimming.
Yeah. I mean, it's across the board. Like the guys at Anderson, Kyle, Gerald, and Fletcher all crushed it. Brian Thrift, Matt Airy, and Hunter Shryock all just really just brought the juice this year. And I really feel good about what we're going to be releasing to the Bash University, airwaves here for the coming year, because it's going to be some really good stuff. So,
and I love it that we put that we raised the bar on what we're talking about at the events, at the seminars, and we push guys to give the goods and to give some things that they're not hearing from other resources, because we want them to really give the details and give the little tricks and tips that aren't shared. And guys go out of their way and they say it all the time. Well, I don't normally talk about this, but because I'm at Bash University, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag on this one. So that's awesome. I want to give a shout out to Wild Bill is with us this morning. What's up, Bill? It's always good to have you with us on the show. And Jocelyn, you herded cats again this year. I don't know how you did it. You dealt with an ice and snowstorm in Dallas, and
we did it. We did it as a team.
Yes. Well, you got all the speakers there, and you managed to get everybody else there too, and everything seemed to run without too much of a glitch. Or at least I don't know about it because you're handling it all. That's awesome. Thank you for great work at Bash U this year.
As always, it was nice.
Yep.
It went smoothly.
Thank you for that. And thank you to the Texas Freshwater Fisheries Center and the sharelunker program. Thank you to Visit Anderson for hosting us at our two events so far this year. And we're going to be at the Bassmaster Classic. We're going to be at ICAST. We hope you'll come down and see us at Ray Roberts. It's going to be a great event, but Bash University will be there. If you're a subscriber, come by and hang out with us. I'm sure we've got something for you in the booth. Come by and see us at the Classic. Is there anything else we got to talk? Any other things that we don't have a sub of the week because Justin, our number one sub of the week, is out sick. As always, when we're doing our events, we always seem to pick up some kind of travel bug.
Yeah.
And Justin got his. He's taking his turn. Thank you, Jeffrey Olson, who got so many shout outs for his excellent camera work, especially by one of our guys, Gerald Swindle, giving him the props that he deserves for doing great work. And we are going to start releasing all of our new Bash University content real soon. So get yourself signed up. Thank you guys, everybody, for watching. Thank you two for being part of Bash University. And we look forward to seeing everybody next week at another Bash University Live. So have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time.